Mental Health Mondays ignite the spark. Hope guides each step, even in the dark. New week, new dreams to see. Hope's the key to what's meant to be.
Hey everyone, welcome to Mental Health Mondays with Hope. My name is Hope, and tonight I wanted to talk to you about a pretty heavy topic. I wanted to talk about suicide. Since it is such a heavy topic, and you know that every time we do our show, we remind you that please, scrolling at the bottom of the screen is the National Crisis Hotline, National Suicide Hotline 988. So please make sure that that you utilize that if need be. So I always start with a positive affirmation, and since I am the guest tonight, my positive affirmation is I am proud of who I am as a human being. So that's my positive affirmation for the night. The reason I wanted to talk about suicide tonight is my best friend passed away. It's almost 5 years from cancer. And her adult son, who was her primary caregiver, just took his own life a few short weeks ago. So obviously, as a person directly connected with this, I've been going through a lot of things myself. I feel very lucky to be a mental health practitioner in a situation like this. I've been a grief counselor, bereavement counselor, worked with hospice families. And I've worked with families who've had a loved one who have taken their own lives. So it's something that I, really wanted to talk about tonight. I'm very fortunate and blessed that I have a great support system, a good friend who is also friends with my bestie, as well. We've been able to talk about these things, as well as my children, and my significant other has been a true blessing. And Mr. Kendall here, of course, my producer, he's been reaching out to me, even though I'm going to tell you, I didn't call him back. And I feel like that is because I just took those last couple of weeks for some, I was very introspective. So when I came on, I wanted to do the show tonight. I wrote down a few points. So I apologize if you see me looking down. It's because I don't want to miss anything. So I did write down a few points. But before I get into those, I wanted to talk about a few other things as it relates to suicide. First, mental health does play a large role in many suicides. And, we as a state of Pennsylvania, so I cannot speak for other states, but I also feel as a nation, we lack in mental health services. And that is something that's very important. We lack in mental health services that accept Medicaid. So, it's really important that we reach out to our legislators and talk to them about the needs for mental health services, especially if it's something that has touched your family. You can share your own stories. If you're here in Pennsylvania and you're watching this, State Representative Mike Schlossberg, he spearheads a lot of the mental health initiatives in Harrisburg. You can follow him on his social media. I follow his TikTok, where he does make a lot of videos about, the progress being made toward bringing more mental health services into Pennsylvania. So if that's something that, I shouldn't say if that's something you're interested in, I feel that, it's something that we've all been touched by mental health issues in one capacity or another, that it's important for us as good citizens, as good human beings, to really make sure that everyone is cared for in that capacity. Also, we see a lot of bullying. We see young people taking their lives due to bullying. And again, the mental health aspect of it is a self-esteem issue, they're just overwhelmed with this. But, the bullies need to be held accountable as well. So knowing what your kids are doing, knowing what their online footprint looks like, and teaching your kids that it's important to be kind to others. We can all then start to come together, and hopefully we can de-escalate this bullying that leads to suicide phenomenon. I know, through the years, I've also had friends, or I've had clients who had attempted suicide, and talking with them, sometimes they, even though they had a good support system, they just didn't feel that they could reach out to them, or that their support system would understand. That's probably not true in a lot of cases, but it could be true in other cases. If somebody talks to you about having feelings that they don't want to be here anymore, that they feel that the world would be a better place without them, please be compassionate. Please assist them. Please guide them in a direction. Again, 988 is a great telephone number. Reach out yourself if you don't know how to handle a situation like that. You can talk to counselors. You can talk to your clergy. Make sure that you're equipped with the tools also that you can help another human being. One of the things for me is that I did feel a sense of guilt, because this is my best friend's son. And, it's interesting. They say, oh, never accept, never make a deathbed promise to somebody. But it's really difficult to not do that. And, she had asked me to make sure that I kept an eye on her son. And I felt a lot of guilt with his passing, that I could have done more. I could have reached out more. I could have been a little bit more assertive in my attempts to reach out to him. But when it comes down to it, I did do what I felt was in my capabilities. But there's that sense of guilt, and I think it's very normal and very common, and I do understand that as well. So I apologize. Like I said, I'm going to be looking down to read this, because I do not want to miss any of the points that I wrote down to talk to you about tonight. So here is something. It's releasing the why trap. Wanting answers is human, obviously. I feel like I kind of knew a why, but not a complete why. So I don't feel that I was doing that as much. And I could say there are so many times that someone who takes their own life, their family or friends didn't see any signs. And that could be that could be a chemical imbalance, that's, from a mental health diagnosis. That they left for work that morning and they were fine. He was the star of the football team. He had lots of friends. So it is human nature to ask why. Suicide, of course, is rarely the result of just one moment or one failure. So I would really encourage families to stop interrogating every memory and thinking, oh, well, maybe when this happened, I should have. Just because you don't have answers, that's lack of answers is not a lack of love. And you didn't miss something that was obvious. And the pain is bigger than any single relationship. So try not to take that on you. And again, try not to fall into the why trap. One thing that's really important is let grief be what it is. I was very fortunate to be able to talk to this young man's father, and we spoke for over 2 hours on the telephone. And he was able to open up to me, and share things with me, which I'm truly honored that he felt comfortable with me to do that. But the one thing that I said to him is that just let the grief happen. Grief after suicide is different than grief after a death from natural causes or from cancer, things like that. Of course, there's the initial shock, there's anger, there's guilt. Sometimes there's relief, and that you can't feel guilty about feeling that relief. There's confusion, and of course, there's love. And sometimes that comes in waves and phases, and sometimes that's all at once. So it can happen that way. There's no correct way, there's no correct timeline to grieve. And that is so important. And you will hear people when it comes to death. I've heard it. I've had family members that I've worked with through hospice who have heard it from friends. Oh my gosh, aren't you over this yet? It's like a dagger through my heart when I hear that someone has said that to an individual who lost a loved one. It's very, very important if you are the friend and you're talking to someone who lost a loved one, is to remind them to grieve however works best for them. It's going to come in waves. It's going to be up and down. I can tell you there's, this one thing, it's called the year of firsts. And it's the first birthday, the first Christmas, the first, if you liked to go look at the stars or things like that, the first time you do that without that person, the first time you go to your favorite restaurant without that person, the year of firsts are very, very difficult, but it's also a great time for reflection. And instead of viewing it as sadness, which obviously it is, try to somehow include that loved one in that first again. One day you might feel totally numb and shattered the next. It's going to come in waves, and just let it happen. And the people who are around you, I'm asking you, please just be there and let it happen. There's no reason to say things sometimes. It's just being there, maybe hugs, maybe holding their hand, just being there. One of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about also is to learn to separate, and this should really try to be something that you do in the beginning, and you can do this through sharing memories, is learn to separate the person from the act or the illness. That is really important. Many people who die from suicide die during a period of overwhelming mental or emotional stress or illness. And, the part of them that loved you did not want to leave you, but the illness was louder in that moment. The despair was louder in that moment. So try to separate the person from the illness, and that is really important. Guilt is common, but not truth. So almost every survivor carries the if only thoughts. And guilt is a grief response, not evidence. Guilt is a grief response, not evidence. If only I called them more often. Which was, again, my guilt. That was my guilt. If only I kept up on it. If only, I was, like I said, more assertive when he didn't return my calls or my texts. So that guilt is a grief response, but it's not the truth, because when I sat back in a logical way and looked at what I did, as was requested by my best friend, I fulfilled that role. So it wasn't the truth. And as I just said, sometimes the illness, sometimes the moment of despair is heavier than the love or respect that individual has for the people around them. When we talk about, I go back and I talk about the different phases, the shock, the anger, the guilt, the confusion. So sometimes, when we think of the confusion after a loved one takes their life, we might think they didn't love me. If they were able to take their own life, they didn't love me. They should have loved me more and not taken their own life. And, of course, I do understand that sentiment. But again, it's about their situation. And without going into too much detail, I can say that, my bestie's son did love the people that were closest to him. And again, it's looking beyond that, because looking beyond that will also help you heal and move forward. So it's really important to separate the person from the illness. Excuse me. Gil, what's that? Oh, have a little side combo with Kendall here. I think actually, so I can clear my throat. We're going to take a brief little pause right here for one of our sponsors, and then I will be right back. Mental Health Mondays with Hope. Be right back.
A doctor's calling. A company's mission. United for a greater good. When Edmark International, the pioneers of wellness, joined forces with Dr. LaJoyce Brookshire, naturopath, the world gained a new weapon in the fight for true health. Co-created, science-backed, nature-powered. This isn't just a product. This is a movement. Born from decades of groundbreaking research, naturopathic mastery, and Edmark's relentless innovation.
The body wants to heal itself, and we have just given it the ultimate toolkit.
A detox unlike any other. A partnership unlike any other. The future of health starts now.
All right, we are back. I had to clear my throat there. How are you feeling about this weather? I don't know where everybody's, watching from here in Pennsylvania. Hey, we're going to have a heat wave. It's going to be above freezing. Another point that I wanted to make was say their name. Avoiding the name does not protect anyone. Sharing the memory keeps the connection alive and allows healing to happen with the loss, not around it. Laughters and tears can coexist, and both are allowed. And and I've been part of it, and I've seen it happen, where one moment you can be grieving and crying tears of sadness, and someone will say, "Hey, remember when?" And then that will break off into laughter, and then there could be additional tears, but the sadness tears have faded to the background. It's really important to keep speaking their name. And one of the things that I feel as well is there's that whole stigma on mental health, on suicide. And if you have the strength to state that your loved one took their life, that your loved one, and another topic is, overdose. That's the only way we're going to break the stigma. And I understand, I get it. You feel that there's going to be judgment. And sadly, some people will, but it's not their place. It's not their situation, and it's not their loved one. And if you are comfortable sharing how your loved one passed away, that could help someone else. And again, like I said, if you're comfortable, because this is extremely overwhelming when someone passes this way, and it may take a while. It may take a while for individuals to be able to state that, because of everything that I've stated so far, because the grieving process is so different, because of the guilt where you may feel that you could have done more, or what did I miss? And I want to say to you that Again, if it was obvious, you would not have missed it. Okay. If it was obvious, you would not have missed it. Laughter is a great medicine. And if you can laugh about it, I am a person that I laugh a lot. That's how I feel that humor is an amazing medicine. And I do laugh about things. I laugh about myself because I'm comfortable with who I am. I do something stupid, I laugh at myself because, it's life. And there will be some people that might feel that's odd, but, again, that's okay. This is your journey and your journey alone. So I shouldn't say alone because you're not alone, but it's your journey and you can take whichever paths or roads along that journey that are going to get you to your destination, which is peace. Protect children with honesty and simplicity. I feel that it's very, very important to not lie to children. And here's, the reasoning, because, they're going to find out. They're going to find out. And I feel that as a parent and as a mental health practitioner, it's better that they hear it from you. It really is better that they hear it from you. Avoid euphemisms like they went to sleep or they left us. That is very, very vague. Very, very vague. They died because their brain was very sick and they couldn't get better. I mean, it's straightforward. When we're talking about mental health, it's very straightforward. Reassure them repeatedly that it was not their fault, that they had no role in this whatsoever. They died because their brain was sick and they couldn't get better. I mean, it is 100% the truth. So find people that can sit and not fix. And sometimes that can be difficult, especially for the person that wants to be there for you. A lot of times, when someone passes away, people will say, "Oh, I don't know what to say to you. I'm so sorry for your loss. I just don't know what to say." That's okay. You don't have to say anything. I'm sorry for your loss. I love you. I'm here for you. And just sitting in stillness, sitting in quiet, and allowing that person who you're sitting with to say whatever they want to say without you interjecting anything into that. Holding their hand, not even saying it's going to be okay is not a great thing to say. Or I know what you're going through is also one that's not a good example to use. If you had a pet that passed away versus a child or a sibling that passed away, it's a little different. So, and I know it's well-intentioned and I understand that. I know that it's well-intentioned. But being that person that can just sit there with them and that they know that you're there is really, really important. And also, I see it just with death in general. Friends or family will say, "What can I do for you?" And you know what? Their brain is in 80,000 different directions. They have no clue what you can do for them. So one of the things that you can do is just take action. If you see dishes in the sink, just get up and do them. If you see that they're not eating, bring a meal. Yeah, I mean, if they're your friend, if they're your family, you're going to know what foods they like. Bring them a meal. They may not want to eat. My suggestion is not bringing something super heavy because they might just take little nibbles here and there. So things like that are very, very important. But just being there, being still and being in the moment is so, so important. And, the one thing that I said was the year of firsts. I remember someone said to me, "Well, the year of firsts is up and I don't feel any better." And really, when we discuss the year of first, we're not discussing it as okay, the year of first is over. You're all better now. And it's just a mechanism that the year of first are going to be different. That first time of whatever that event is, that holiday, anniversary, vacation, it's going to be different. After the year of first, it may not get any easier. And I can tell you that on March 1st, my best friend will be gone 5 years. And I still go through moments of sadness and crying. And it's 5 years. And I just allow myself to have that. And, and it is a lot of times associated with some sort of an anniversary. And what I do, we took a bunch of bucket list trips and things like that. And when those memories come up on Facebook and, social media, my initial, we have to train our brain. My initial thought was to be a little bit sad because she's not here with me anymore. But then I go to the memories. And then I think about the fun that we had. So honoring anniversaries intentionally is very important. Again, you can get sucked into the sadness of it all, and it's going to happen. But we can get to a point where we can take control of that and just redirect it. Birthdays, death dates, holidays, they can hit hard. Planning something, lighting a candle, walking, writing a letter to that person about how you're feeling. It can soften the ambush of those days. And journaling. I know we've talked about journaling a few times on this show. Journaling is something that is so key for everything. If you haven't done it, give it a try. Give it a try, because it's a great opportunity to just write down, what your feelings are in the moment. And then it's there. Sometimes, you might want to go back to it and reflect on it and reread it, or you've put it out into the universe and gotten it off your chest. So honoring those anniversaries intentionally with that person in mind. Like a lot of times I'll tell my hospice families, or I just won't tell them, I will ask them, how will you honor your loved one this Christmas, this birthday, this Easter, at the wedding? And they don't know, wait, what do you mean? It's going to catch them off guard if it comes to that anniversary, it comes to that event, and they didn't think of intentionally how to honor their loved one. So that's really important, is including them, their memory, lighting a candle, saying a prayer, sharing a memory, however you choose to do that to honor your loved one. And again, it doesn't matter how they passed away. They're no longer with you. So separating what happened to them from who they are as a loved one is very important. 2 more points. One is watching the caregivers, parents, siblings, spouses often try to be strong. Remind them that grief is not contagious, but unspoken grief can isolate. And, again, when I was speaking to, the dad in this situation, I reminded him, about isolation. And he has a great support system with his family and a few close friends, and they will reach out and they will be there for him. And another point on this that I would like to make is, a lot of times, after someone passes away, everyone is there initially, and that can be very, very overwhelming. But making sure that you're there for the long haul, making sure that you're there for the long run, that you're checking in on them, and, just pop up out of the blue and say, hey, let's go do something. Just their life is different now. And you can really honor your love for them by just remembering to reach out to them all the way down the road. So it's really, really important to, make sure that we have a support system for all the caregivers. And the last one is, hope doesn't mean forgetting. Healing doesn't mean moving on. And it means learning to carry love and loss together. And that joy can return without betrayal. So having hope for a positive future, a positive mindset, peace, it doesn't mean forgetting. And that's really, really, I feel like the most important. I think that's everything that I really wanted to go over with you this evening. And I again wanted to remind you that 988 is there for anyone who needs that. And if you are going through this as a family, or if you are someone who has attempted to take their life in the past, remember, you are important. You are worthy, right? We need you here. We need you here. And, you might be having a moment and that's okay, but you're important and you're loved. So if you've been listening as somebody who has lost someone, what you're carrying is heavy and the way you're responding to it is human. There's no perfect way to grieve this kind of loss. The questions, the guilt, the anger, thinking that you failed, all of those feelings means that you loved, that you really loved this individual. Your person was more than the way they died. Their life mattered, and your life still matters, even as you carry the pain. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning how to live with love and loss in the same breath. So if today stirred something in you, please reach out to a trusted person. Again, 988, clergy, what have you. Thank you for listening and watching and for holding your space for a difficult topic, difficult conversation. And please remember to take care of yourselves. So thank you again. I'll see you next week.